Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Saturday, the 16th of July. With Robert Murray McShane, one of the chapters we read today is Jeremiah chapter 12. It's headed Jeremiah's Complaint. And the chapter begins, "You are always righteous, Lord, when I bring a case before you. Yet I would speak with you about your justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the faithless live at ease? You have planted them, and they've taken root. They grow and bear fruit. You are always on their lips, but far from their hearts." And as I read that, I thought, Jeremiah had that complaint 3,000 years ago. It's exactly the same today. It's exactly the prayer that so many of us have. We look at the world and we say, Lord, why is it that the unrighteous, the evil, seem to prosper in a world where you are the judge of all, where you are in control? How does this work? We know that you're just. We know that you're righteous. How does this work? Jeremiah had that complaint back in his day. We have exactly the same complaint today. We look at the world, Lord, why? And then a little bit later, God's answer to him is, if you have raced with men on foot and they have worn you out, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in the safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? And it's almost God saying to Jeremiah, you don't understand. You can't understand human beings. How can you hope to understand God? You can't fully understand the way of your own heart. How can you understand the way that God works? And that for me is something we just have to remember, that we don't understand God. We can't understand God. We can't run with horses, and we won't stand a chance, absolutely no chance whatsoever. And so we've just got to keep trusting in God. And the chapter ends where he says that he is going to bring the people back from exile. He is going to restore Judah. He is going to bring restoration. He says, but after I uproot them, I will again have compassion and will bring them back to their own inheritance and their own country. So he says, this isn't the end. In the end, it will all work out to my glory and in a just way. So as you struggle with the world, assuming that you do, and I don't know of any Christian that doesn't struggle with the world. As we struggle with the world, we've just got to hang on to God and say, God, help us to keep going. Help us to keep trusting. Help us to rely on the fact that you are a just God, that you are a loving God, that you are in control. And one day, probably only when we step into your presence in the kingdom in eternity, we will see it. But today, in the midst of this mess that we live in, we keep walking in your ways, trusting in you, depending on you. For that is our foundation, and that is the rock on which we stand. So be encouraged, be strengthened, be blessed.